So what I'd like to be able to do tonight actually is take a slightly different approach and talk to you about why one of the beers on the table in front of you might be the most important beer that I've ever made. I've made a lot of different beers, so why would that beer be the most important beer that I've ever made? Well, to understand that, you kind of have to understand a little bit more about me, and that's why we're all here, right? We want to find out about why we do what we do. Why does Uncle Frank do what Uncle Frank does? Why is he even Uncle Frank? But to know that before there was Uncle Frank, there was BMX Frank. Back in the day when I was a kid, I used to race BMX bikes. Bicycle motocross, for those of you who don't really know, got a gate, bunch of dirt jumps and turns and everything else, and a finish line. And as a kid, that was my motto for life. Bicycle motocross was my life. BMX is everything I did. You started someplace, you finished someplace. There were jumps, there was high, there were lows, there were crashes, and there was victory. And that's what I did. For 25 years, I raced bicycle motocross, and I loved every single second of it. And people would ask me, why do you do that? Why do you take a chance jumping those big jumps and those doubles and everything else and get hurt? And I had no answer. I couldn't say why. And that, at a very, very young age, is where I learned the difference between love and passion. Love is something you can explain. Oh, you love this? Yeah, I love doing that because blah, 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 blah. Oh, I love doing this because of ABCD. When you have a passion for something, it's yes. You just do it. There's no answer. You can't explain it. Racing, bicycle motocross, for me, was my passion. I was a teenager, and I did it in junior high school and in high school, through college, past college. I have friends around the country and around the globe because of BMX racing. I met pros, people that I had pictures on my wall that I idolized. And later on in my racing career, I could hang out with them and talk racing strategy and ask them questions. You can't do that when you're playing ball. You can't be like, yo, MJ, how come I missed my jumper? Hey, LeBron, can you show me that crossover? That's not going to happen. Bicycle motocross, Eric Roop, Greg Hill, all those guys, they would sit down and talk to you and hang out with you. And it was different. It was a small community, and I loved it. I loved every single second about it. And as I furthered on my racing career, chasing titles, chasing points, chasing plates, got on a team, Style Industries. And with Style Industries, we called ourselves the BMXicans. BMX, I can. I can BMX. BMXican. And that's what we were. And being a BMXican made me go from place to place and city to city, all over the place, racing bikes all over the country. And as I got older, and I'd be able to drive myself, a great trip would go, drive to this place and do this track, and then drive someplace to another track and hit this place for dirt jumping and then go back home. And as I got older, it'd be like, well, let's drive to here, but I want to stop at this brew pub and taste their beers. And then I want to go to this place and try their brew pub because that's near that dirt jumping spot. And when we do that, then I'll end up going home. And I started to get a taste for craft beer. And this kept going for a while I was racing. Like I said, it was high school and it was college and post-college. And I had a real job where I wore a jacket and a tie. I was a banker. Banker. But it was a point while I was a banker and I started getting more into craft beer. And I went to this little bar, the Wickenden Street Pub in Providence, Rhode Island. And I had my first Anchor Steam. Wow. That's craft beer. This is what beer can be. I want more. I want to know more about it. I want to know everything about this. Do you remember your Epiphany beer? Do you remember your Epiphany beer? I remember mine. I remember where I was. I remember who I was sitting with. And it was a moment that changed my life, having that epiphany beer. Love, passion. There was no explaining it. I just did. I said yes. I bought in on that beer. And I had to be a part of it, and I had to learn more about it. So I started homebrewing. And like a lot of other guys who start, when they start brewing, I was homebrewing. And I'm learning a little bit of this, learning a little bit of that. And then the homebrew shop that I bought all my stuff from was for sale. And Steve said, hey, are you interested? You know, I just want to sell the shop. There's nothing wrong with it. I just want to spend some more time with my wife and with my daughter. And I wasn't married. I didn't have any kids. I said yes. I jumped in. And I bought a business. I had never owned a business before. I didn't have a business plan. As Sam Calagione calls it, the best work of fiction ever is a business plan. You've got to tell somebody, yes, this is going to work. I just bought it. I got in. And so I started homebrewing and owning this shop. And that's where I really started getting more into it and honing my skills and learning not so much about the beer, but about the people that were into beer. And I loved teaching. I loved teaching people about beer and how to change their recipes and try to help them hone their recipes. And some of them were very simple. They never wanted to change. They just still want to do extract beer. And other people want to do more whole grain and get these bigger systems. And I had to learn all of that stuff. And we would have monthly meetings and bring people in and talk to them about the tastings and the flavors and the styles. I went for my beer judge certification program ranking, and I became a certified beer judge. And I loved teaching people about beer and the community of what we built with those people that were there. And that was a part-time business. It wasn't a full-time thing. I just did that a few nights a week, and I was still in banking. And then I got a phone call, 2005, from the guys down at Newport Storm, Coastal Extreme Brewing Company in Rhode Island. And they said, we need a brewer. One of our guys is leaving. We need somebody to come on board. And I said yes. So I went from 5-gallon pot to 10-barrel Krivler system. Never brewed on anything quite that large. Didn't matter. I just wanted in. So I was the assistant brewer at Newport Storm. And I learned under Derek, and I learned everything I possibly could, from washing kegs to chemical compositions to recipe formulation to going out and doing promos. And it was very, very scary moment, because what was my hobby, what was fun, became a job. And I didn't want that to happen. I didn't want beer to become work, because work is a 4-letter word. But it doesn't have to be a 4-letter curse word, because I know what words you guys are thinking about right now. Beer is also a 4-letter word, and that's a fun word, right? It's a perspective. And that's something I learned from racing BMX. And there's a great video online. You should check it out. Find it on YouTube. It's called Another Perspective. And there's a line in there where he talks about, why do you race BMX? Why do you do the things that you do? Until you find a point in time that your bike is changing your perspectives and the way that you look at life. Bicycle motocross did that for me. And beer was starting to do that for me, and how I looked at different things and different opportunities. So this job wasn't a job. Because if you love what you do, you don't work a day in your life. Everybody's heard this. How many people make it true? I decided to roll the dice. So in 2005, I was the assistant brewer at Newport Storm. And I'm working my way through Storm, and I'm doing some other things, and some other opportunities presented themselves to me, one of them being a manager of a liquor store. And I wasn't really sure if I wanted to leave brewing to go to a liquor store manager. But again, it was like bikes. I mean, in BMX, there's racing, but there's also dirt jumping. There's also vert ramps. Kevin Robinson, X Games champion, very, very good friend of mine. But it's a different genre, but it's still bikes. This was still beer. This was still craft beer, but I wasn't really sure, and I said, I need to be able to explore this. I need to find something else out. So when they said, hey, do you want to be a manager of a liquor store? I said, yes. I had never been a manager of a whole liquor store before. Wines and liquors and lots of money, lottery tickets. Lottery tickets, jeez. Yeah. But I did it. And there was another opportunity. It was something else, another obstacle that was in front of me with those people that would come in. Holidays, and this is a perfect time for this talk, too, because the holidays would come around. And these people would come in and be like, oh, I need this great bottle of wine to go with my Thanksgiving dinner. And I'd give them a Saison. And they're like, what is this? I'm like, no, trust me. And I knew a little bit about wine, and I got them that really, really good bottle of wine, too. But I gave them the bottle of wine, and the people who were really skeptical about it, I said, you know what? You're going to take this home, and you're going to serve it to your guests. And if you don't like it, if your guests don't like it, you bring it back, and I'll give you your money back. Chris Gasparo didn't know that. He owned the store. But I never had anybody come back, luckily. But it was a big moment for me because I was able to teach some people about not only just beer, but beer and food. And I didn't realize it, but that was probably one of those seeds that was planted way back then for the Cicerone program, which is where you learn about beer and you learn about pairings and you learn about things like that. And I didn't really know it then, but I just had this going on. And I'm doing that, and then I got another phone call. And Chris calls me and says, hey, I'm leaving John Harvard's. I'm taking another opportunity. We're going to need a brewer here. 2008, I became the head brewer, John Harvard's Brewhouse, Manchester, Connecticut. Coincidingly, 2007 was my last BMX National. So I went from being done with racing BMX, dove in, all about it. Had I ever been a head brewer before? No. 15-barrel pub system. Can you handle this? Yes. Yes, I can do this. Why not? No. But I jumped in, and I did it. Made some fun beers. Beer called Angry Chewbacca. Big, brown, bitter. Why not? George Lucas doesn't know this, by the way. Won a medal for my Nut Brown Ale. I was very, very happy with that. I felt like I was accepted. But more important than being recognized by my peers was the community of people that I met. And as a Connecticut brewer, I met so many really, really great people. We would talk about beer. We would help each other out. David, what do I do? This happened. I don't know what to do here. Jeff, have you ever experienced this? And then it started to come around where I'd get the phone call. Frank, have you ever seen this happen before? And I realized I was part of this community, this family of brewers. One of those people is Dr. Terry Foster. And I always say doctor because he is. And actually, when I see him, I'm like, doctor? He says, uncle? And I respect this man so much because he wrote the book. And when I say he wrote the book, he wrote the book. He actually wrote two. There are style guideline books on barley wine and wheat beer and stout. He wrote the books on pale ale and porter. And this man is my friend. And we would sit around, we would talk about beer. It was family. It was the people that I could talk to. 2010, GABF, my first Great American Beer Festival. Hugest beer festival I had ever been to. And I walk in, and there's no lines yet because I got in early. I'm like, oh, this is great. Let's see what kind of beers I want to taste. I'm going over here. I'm looking over this way, and I walk around the corner. And who's got the line? Who's got the first big, huge line? Dogfish. Sam Calgione. And I just kind of grinned, and I laughed, and I waved. I'm like, hey, Sam. Uncle Frank. What's up? Come over here. Grab my little sample cup, and I go over and I sip beer with Sam. Again, an opportunity to be able to have beer with the superstars of our industry, who are my friends, who are my family, who are my community. It's moments like that that spell out why I do what I do. It just keeps continuing on and on and on, and I can't explain it. When you ask me why, I don't really know why. It's just, yes, I'm in. I'm doing this. So when that branch of John Harvard's was sold, the chain is still around, but that particular branch was sold off. I needed another brewery. I'm looking around. Redhook. So I went from a 10-barrel Crivler to a 15-barrel pub to a 100-barrel Hupman system. I went from being the man, like Ric Flair, woo, to being one of a team. And I was challenged with that question. You're not the man anymore. Kind of do what's set in front of you here. Can you do this? And I said, yes. Why not? Let me jump in. And lucky for me, there were some things going on because it's not as structured as everybody thinks it is. When people think about the obstacles that you have in front of you when you work for a big brewery, is it always set in stone? Is it always, oh, you must do it this way because now you're at a big brewery? No. There's always something you can do. I was lucky at the time that when I was coming in, the person who was doing cask ale was leaving. So I get to do cask, which is great because I love traditional beer. I love English-style ales. And I got to play around a little bit. A little different carbonation, a couple of different hops, this and that. And it was fun. And it gave me an outlet in a structured setting that is the Redhook Brewery. So I came to Redhook in 2012, and not too far from that is when I had the opportunity to be able to collaborate. But collaboration, always people think, oh, well, you got to collaborate with a brewery across the street and a brewery over here and maybe a brewery across the globe. No, you can collaborate within the team. And collaboration is key to craft brewing. And if you haven't seen this video online, you should. You need to look it up. 2009 Craft Brewers Conference. It was actually held in Boston, Massachusetts. The opening video. It's called I Am a Craft Brewer. It's a wonderful, wonderful video. And it talks about lots of things that make you a craft brewer, and collaboration is one of those things. And I got to collaborate with my own team. I had been here maybe 6 months. And they said, you know what? We're going to make a pumpkin beer. We're going to make pumpkin porter. And I said, well, I played around a little bit, but it's got to be a dark beer. It's got to be a porter or a stout or a brown ale at least, because I think those flavors go good together. And later on, we launched Pumpkin Porter. This beer means a lot to me, even if it's a pumpkin beer, because I got to be able to put on it. I got to collaborate on this particular style of beer. And being able to work with those people and understand that they had more knowledge than me, but we still got to work together, is what makes one of those beers in front of you right now one of the most important beers I've ever made. And that's the ESB. So right now in front of you have ESB and you have Winterhook. Winterhook has a standard. It's always 6%. We always try to make it somewhat spicy but never spice it. And with that, we'll use some rye malt. But the ESB is steeped in tradition. It is what beer was and what beer is. It's a beer they probably had in their tankards when they were saying, you know what, screw you, England, we're making a new country. It's tradition. And something like Winterhook that we have to change around and pumpkin porter that was new is innovation. And innovation and tradition don't sound like they should go hand in hand, but in craft beer, not only are they holding hands, they walk the aisle together. So why do I do what I do? Because I'm a BMXican. Because I'm a craft brewer. The bumps, the bruises, the concussion, the broken collarbone, the sleeping on hotel floors just to chase points, the clearing the big set of doubles, the getting that national title, the going for top 25 in the country, made it to 27. I was close, but it works. And the friends around the globe. The steam burns, the chemical burns, the constantly having to explain to people that Redhook is not owned by Anheuser-Busch. God. Being called Budhook. Negative reviews on Beer Advocate. The great beers. The beers that win medals. The beers that are steeped in tradition, and more importantly, the people that are around in the beers that we make. When you look at how beer is reflected, Sam Calagione, he thinks beer is history. He once made a speech about how you look back to look forward on what you want to do with beer. Garrett Oliver says people are always trying to pair beer with food, but what they don't understand is beer is food. So for me, beer is BMX. Beer is bike racing. Love, passion. And that's why I do what I do. And I ask all of you, why do you do what you do? And since it's very beer-centric, why do you drink what you drink? And when you think of that answer, don't internalize it, share it. Because I didn't realize all of this until I was asked to give this talk. I thought about it, but I didn't know because I always said yes. Can you do this? Yes. Do you want to do it? Yes. I always just said yes. I never really thought about it until giving this talk and prepping for this talk. And now I have a better understanding. And I think if you think about why you do what you do, then you will also have a better understanding of why you drink what you drink and why what's in your glass is in your glass. And I look forward to sharing that story with you sometime in the future. Cheers.